That demonic grandma probably ordered this pitiful girl to make an example out of you. Diane Rahu said indifferently. Go. There is no need to show any mercy to a girl serving that old, demonic grandma. No one thought he was wrong to address Shen Wuyi as a pitiful girl. In another kingdom of God, being chosen to be a god-bearer was the honor of a lifetime. But a god-bearer who Shen Wuyanai chose. How else could they describe her besides pitiful? The previous eternal night divine daughter, Shen Wuqing, had carried herself with a kind of soul-piercing loneliness and gloominess. Perhaps the only warmth she ever felt came from the once arrogant and fearless, the one who faced hardships head-on, Pan Buwang. Today her corpse was still cooling. Actually, scratch that. Considering that Shen Wuqing committed what Shen Wuyanai considered the gravest error a woman could ever make, and refused to admit her mistake until the moment she died, it was entirely up for question whether she even left a corpse behind. Diane Jiaji leaped into the air and landed inside the barrier as light as a feather and as elegant as a poem. Although Diane Rahu told him not to show mercy to a daughter of eternal night, the self-cultivation that was etched in his very bones still caused him to give Shen Wuyi a polite salute. Boundless Diane Jiaji greets you. I am honored to receive the guidance of the newly appointed eternal night divine daughter. Shen Wuyi did not say anything. She only turned her wrist and caused a soft ding to echo in everyone's ears. There was a dark, crimson-colored flash, and a thin, long sword appeared in Shen Wuyi's hand. The hilt of the sword was pitch black in color. The blade was about 1.3 meters long and pitch black. It was etched with dark red patterns that glowed faintly like bloody pupils that were peering into the world from the darkest night. Meng Jiangxi explained to Yun Qi softly, this sword was originally the sword of the divine son of the eternal night kingdom of God, Crimson Pupil. One, however, Shen Wuyanai gave it an intolerably vulgar name after she became divine regent. She named it the Heartless Sword, Yun Qi. Yun Qi wore a look of dumbfoundedness that Meng Jiangxi clearly approved of. He continued, the eternal night kingdom of God has another divine sun weapon called Profound Sky Cleansing Moon. It is a beautiful skybreak sting with spatial powers. Shen Wuyanai later changed its name to Heartbreak Sting. He shook his head with a regretful look on his face. The chief priest raised his palm, and old, bronze-colored, profound light shone out of it. Shen Wuyi of Eternal Night is at the 6th level of the Divine Extinction Realm. Diane Jiaji of Boundless is at the 8th level of the Divine Extinction Realm. For this battle, Diane Jiaji must accept the Profound Rage Seal so that his cultivation level is equal to Shen Wuyi's. I'm in your care, Chief Priest. Diane Jiaji turned around to salute him. However, a cold, indifferent voice rang beside his ears. It is unnecessary. Diane Jiaji side-eyed Shen Wuyi with a slightly odd expression. After the initial shock had passed, the crowd was chuckling lightly or shaking their heads in silence. Diane Rahu, one of the few men who did not give a shit about the right place and time, was laughing out loud. Ha-ha-ha, this girl, how interesting, ha-ha-ha. This woman. Just what is she thinking? Meng Jiangxi frowned deeply. Is she thinking about fighting Diane Jiaji at his strongest? Does she know who she is facing? Has she gone mad? Yun Qi was frowning slightly as well. It did not disappear even after a long time. Diane Jiaji's astonishment only lasted a moment. He did not jeer at her or get frustrated with her. Instead, he said calmly, you are a permanent resident of the eternal night kingdom of God, and today is our first meeting. I understand why you would not know much about me, eternal night divine daughter. I am Diane Jiaji. I am currently 52 sexagenary years old and an 8th level divine extinction realm profound practitioner. In terms of the profound way, I am 51 sexagenary years more experienced and knowledgeable than you. In terms of physical body, I possess the divine vein of great rage. It is fairly compatible with the boundless manifestation art of the boundless kingdom of God. In other words, even if my cultivation level is suppressed to your level, I still hold a great advantage in terms of the profound way and the physical body, or more accurately, an unfair advantage. He did not conceal anything. He told Shen Wuyi exactly how big his advantage was. So I advise you to reconsider your words, eternal night divine daughter. However, Diane Jiaji's kind words did not move Shen Wuyi's expression in the slightest. When she spoke again, her tone was exactly as indifferent as before. I said, it is unnecessary. The yellow light in the chief priest's hand vanished, and he did not attempt to persuade Shen Wuyi. He said in a heavy voice, in that case, the profound rage seal will not be applied. Begin. There was no turning back once the chief priest had given his word. It would appear that even the chief priest disliked the eternal night kingdom of God. Diane Jiaji had more to say, but the chief priest's verdict forced him to swallow it. Facing Shen Wuyi and hiding a sigh, he clasped his right hand behind his back and slowly raised his left hand. My age, cultivation level, and physical body are all greater than yours. Even if I win, it would not be a fair victory. Rather than winning, I would rather learn from you and witness the celestial appearance of the eternal night divine daughter with my own eyes. Only then will this fight be worthwhile too. So, I'll allow you 10 breaths to attack first. 10 breaths later, I will stop defending and start attacking. 10 breaths. At the level of the divine extinction realm, being able to attack without retaliation for 10 breaths straight was a significantly stupid handicap, to say the least. If not for the fact that Diane Jiaji's character was known to the entire abyss, and that his expression and body language were completely honest, it would have been interpreted as a thorough insult. Ha 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 ha, good. Diane Ranhu let out another bark of laughter and said to the juniors standing next to him. With this statement, Jiaji both showed off the generosity of Boundless without giving up any pretext for gossip, and humiliated the bitches of Eternal Night in the same sentence. This way, they can't even make an excuse after they lose without looking ugly. Diane Sansi replied, Actually, I think Jiaji is allowing the Eternal Night Divine Daughter the chance to show off the splendor of Eternal Night to everyone during these 10 breaths. He hopes that this will allow her to wow the crowd and spread her name throughout the abyss. Even if she ultimately loses, her journey to the Pure Land would not have been in vain. 3. He added after a pause, Jiaji has always been like this. He habitually hands out kindness to both familiar faces and strangers. Smile stiffening, Diane Rahu slowly shook his head. Ah, damn it, he seriously is inflexible in this regard. Shen Wuyi did not say anything. One hand clasped behind her back, she slowly raised her sword and pointed it at Diane Jiaji, who was still unarmed at this point. As the crimson markings on the blade grew dangerously deep, Yun Qi snuck a glance at the cold, black, and oppressive-feeling palanquin. From start to finish, Shen Wuyanai did not react at all. The crowds were scoffing or snorting. Diane Rahu was openly laughing. The lightless divine regent's temper was legendary, to put it mildly, and yet she remained unnaturally calm this whole time. What was the divine vein of great rage? Yun Qi knew it very well. Extraordinary physical strength and toughness weren't the only qualities it bestowed. The quantity and quality of profound energy of a profound practitioner with the divine vein of great rage far surpassed that of a peer at the same level as well. Even for her, could she really defeat an 8th-level divine extinction realm profound practitioner at the 6th level, much less the possessor of the divine vein of great rage, Diane Jiaji? The chief priest's eyelids were lowered. He seemed to think that it was beneath him to watch this upcoming battle directly. His understanding of the divine vein of great rage was far more profound than Yun Qi's. That was why he found it beyond laughable that the Eternal Night Divine Daughter was planning to challenge it without any handicap whatsoever. It was at this moment that an ephemeral voice rang in his ears. Rage, watch this girl closely. The chief priest's gaze abruptly solidified. Ding, Shen Wuyi moved, the heartless sword drawing a crimson line in the air and moving straight toward Diane Jiaji. However, the crimson line came to an abrupt stop an instant before it could reach the divine sun. Diane Jiaji was currently holding 2 fingers in front of himself, and sitting between them was the shockingly cold tip of the heartless sword. The blade stopped in midair, unable to move even an inch further. Shen Wuyi's figure was frozen in place as well. Diane Jiaji's expression did not change. His fingers weren't covered in profound light. Not a single wound or a bead of blood could be seen either. The youngsters who were witnessing Diane Jiaji's strength for the first time were all crying out in astonishment. It was because Shen Wuyi's sword was imbued with the terrifying, profound power of a 6th-level divine extinction realm practitioner. The light in Shen Wuyi's eyes didn't change. She abruptly spun on her feet and drew a crimson crescent next. The shrill noise of a blade cutting through the air was so sharp that it felt like the very space of Eden's crown was cut. Ding. There was a soft ding, and Diane Jiaji's left hand appeared before his forehead. He had lifted a single finger and caught the tip of Shen Wuyi's sword with it. That was the only move he made, but it was enough to wipe out the crimson scar in an instant. Shen Wuyi's form changed again. Like a stunning shadow, she spun in retreat before the heartless sword shone crimson and unleashed dozens of sword scars in an instant. Every single one of them contained the terrible power of a 6th-level divine extinction realm profound practitioner. Some of the scars looked like crescents, and some like bloody shadows. They wove a web that surrounded Diane Giuggi, causing the surrounding space to groan. The web of slashes caused even the spectators to feel chilled to their core, but Diane Giuggi remained where he was. He did not move a muscle, and his expression did not change one whit. His right hand still clasped behind his back, he moved his left hand so fast that it left behind afterimages, and his fingers so swift that they looked like illusions. Showing exactly zero signs of panic or inelegance, he danced through the web of swords like a graceful butterfly. Ding, 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 ding. A series of metallic clangs occurred as Diane Giuggi blocked the blade with his fingers. It sounded like metal rain. Each sound accurately matched a sword shadow, and each crimson scar was wiped away completely by his fingers. Forget leaving a wound on his person. The assault had failed to move even his sleeve. This was the case from the start until the end. Gasps and cries of astonishment came from the crowd. Meng Jiangxi drew in a long, deep breath before exclaiming in surprise. Earlier, I thought for sure that Shen Wuyi's sixth-level divine extinction realm was just a pretty shell with a rotten core that the lightless divine regent had forced into existence by her terrifying obsession. But I was wrong. Her cultivation is as genuine as it gets. Even through the barrier, I feel like those sword shadows could skewer me. In comparison, it would appear that Diane Giuggi's terrifying strength needs to be reevaluated yet again. Concealing his shock, Meng Jiangxi lowered his voice and said, "It's clear that his divine vein of great rage has ascended to greater heights not long ago. I can hardly believe that he's handling the power of a sixth-level divine extinction realm profound practitioner like child's play." Yun Qi did not give him a response. Instead, he looked in the direction of the eternal night kingdom of God once more. The stifling cold and quiet indifference that occupied that space hadn't changed one bit. Ding, 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 ding. Again and again, Shen Wuyi attacked Diane Giuggi. Without exception, Diane Giuggi blocked it all with one hand. It was, as Meng Jiangxi said, child's play. The gap was so large that the crowd gradually grew bored with the show. Xian Yue withdrew his gaze and kept shooting glances behind his back. "Don't worry," Wuxian Yue said. "Zinger is removing a weight in his mind. He will return." Xian Yue regained his senses and fell into thought for a moment. Then he blurted out, "Although Sha Xing and Pan Buweng were friends since long ago, why do I feel like they share some sort of unknown story between them?" The word fog monarch appeared in his head without warning, though he wiped it away just as quickly. Then he turned around and asked, "Do you think Pan Buweng will be reappointed as the Owl Butterfly Divine Son after today, Master?" "Impossible." Wuxian Yue's answer was the same as Meng Kongqin's reply to Yun Qi. "But why?" Xian Yue couldn't understand. He understood why the Owl Butterfly Kingdom of God would have qualms, but impossible was such a strong word that there could be no doubt. Wuxian Yue said quietly, "When a person crosses a line that should never be crossed, it is only natural to fear the consequences that come of it. That same fear will drive them to do everything in their power to stop those consequences from becoming true." Wuxian Xing looked at Xian Yue and explained, "Simply put, Pan Buzhuo acted too ruthlessly against Pan Buweng. He did not kill him, but he committed basically every vile act one possibly could to the man. If it were just him, this could still be remedied. However, countless others have actively or passively become his accomplices in order to curry favor with Pan Buzhuo, the new divine son." As if that wasn't enough, the Eternal Divine Regent ignored and indulged their actions. Sure, he never played an active role, but the pain he inflicted on Pan Buweng was possibly the worst out of all of them. You're aware of the final outcome. If Pan Buweng had not been kicked out of the Dreamweaver Kingdom of God, he would have succumbed to utter despair and committed soul suicide already. So, knowing all that they have done to him, literally cornering him to the point where he was half a step away from self-destructing, who would dare to accept Pan Buweng's return? Even if they compensated him as best they could, even if he acted perfectly friendly on the outside. Who would dare to believe that his hatred had truly disappeared? Let's assume that he becomes the divine son once more, and the day comes where he inherits his divine power from Pan Yusheng. Who could say he would not reveal his hidden hatred and enact bloody vengeance upon everyone who slighted him then? Heck, the first person he would kill could very well be Pan Yusheng. I see, Xian Yue seemed to get what they were saying. That said, although they could not make Pan Buweng the divine son once more, I am sure the Eternal Divine Regent would spare no effort to bring him back to the Owl Butterfly Kingdom of God. Not only that, he will do everything in his power to repair their relationship. Xian Yue thought for a moment before asking, is it because of the abyssal monarch, and because he is afraid that Pan Buweng would become a deadly, uncontrollable threat? Those are two valid reasons. Wuxian Xing narrowed his eyes slightly. But personally, I believe that the most important reason is— Wuxian Yue finished his sentence in a dark tone— the original abyss that severs the night. That dark soul domain is good enough to be passed down in the owl butterfly kingdom of God for eternity. Not only that, Pan Buweng's perfect body of darkness, Tusk, if they could somehow figure out its secrets, if they could find a way to replicate it. Pan Yusheng's heart probably isn't even here anymore. If not for the fact that the abyssal monarch is right here, I bet he would leave the Pure Land immediately and escort Pan Buweng back to the owl butterfly kingdom of God in person. Suddenly, an ear-vibrating screech of space erupted from the battlefield. Shen Wuyi's heartless sword was shaking violently. Its crimson light withdrew into itself until it formed a crimson sword projection so dense that it might as well be tangible. She turned slightly, and the thin, long sword bent dramatically like a bow. Then, it lashed out violently and unleashed a crimson blast in the sky, smoothly severing the world before everyone's eyes from the very center. It looked as if she had poured all of her power into the attack. The light in Diane Jiuzhe's eyes finally changed a little. He raised his left arm slightly, but he wasn't just blocking with his fingers anymore. Instead, he spread his fingers wide, and amidst countless shocked gazes, grabbed the crimson sword projection with his bare hand. Chi. A terrible ripping sound exploded from the center of Diane Jiuzhe's palm. Countless twisted, thin, and narrow red scars were erupting in the space as well. His face remained calm as he slowly clenched his fingers and rapidly extinguished it all, leaving behind only tiny fragments of light. The sword projection wasn't destroyed yet, but Shen Wuyi abruptly appeared beside Diane Jiuzhe. The light currently projected by the heartless sword was actually stronger than the sword projection she unleashed. This time, Diane Jiuzhe moved. He leaned backward and moved the right hand he had been clasping behind his back this whole time. His movement seemed light and slow, but it accurately caught the blade at the same time a silver-white light flashed out of his person. There was a loud boom, and both the sword projection and the light of the heartless sword crumbled. Diane Jiuzhe flipped backward and landed on the floor as lightly as a falling leaf. Before him, Shen Wuyi was propelled several kilometers in an instant. It wasn't until she stabbed the sword into the floor and carved a 300-meter-long scar that she finally arrested her momentum. 10 breaths had passed, and Diane Jiuzhe hadn't suffered a single wound. In everyone's opinion, this was the end of this battle. Diane Jiuzhe looked down at the slightly disheveled corner of his sleeve. He then paid Shen Wuyi a heartfelt compliment. I'll be honest, Eternal Night Divine Daughter. I had harbored doubt regarding your cultivation, thinking that it was the product of hasty accumulation and an unsteady foundation. I am deeply ashamed to have misjudged you this much. 1 sexenary year, the 6th level of the divine extinction realm. I cannot hope to match even a sliver of your talent for the profound way. If we were the same age, I would not even have the right to face you in combat. Not even a little. Diane Rahu covered his face and sighed deeply. I told him that there is no need to be courteous with a demoness of eternal night. AI. Diane Sansi was looking at Diane Jiuzhe with respect and admiration, though. This is how Brother Jiuzhe is. He would not change just because others push him too. Suddenly, his heart seized inside his chest, and he found himself casting Yunqi a sideways glance before he knew it. Brother Jiuzhe was such a good person, but to think. Diane Jiuzhe's compliment to Shen Wuyi was heartfelt. He had also offered her more than enough face. Even if she were going to lose horribly, she would only lose a minimal amount of dignity now. Shen Wuyi's response was, "You talk too much." Diane Jiuzhe let out a small sigh before breaking into a relaxed smile. White light was circulating between his fingers when he raised his hand once more. An invisible, formless pressure was slowly spreading to the surroundings. 10 breaths. That was the kindness he gave Shen Wuyi, knowing that there was no way he was going to lose. However, he had no idea that Shen Wuyi did not care about the 10 breaths of advantage her opponent gave her at all. Ed note, I fought hard for I, here and above, but TL wouldn't budge. TL note, I gotta say, Diane Jiuzhe is insensitive to the max. He thinks he's being courteous, but he's really actively worsening Shen Wuyi's situation. Assuming Shen Wuyi loses, Shenwu Yanai is going to rip her a few holes as compared to just one if he had just gone all out from the start. The guy really doesn't use his head. TL note, I take it back, this whole goddamn kingdom is made of idiots. She would literally be tortured to death by Shenwu Yanai's hand if the scenario you imagined happened, you stupid.